Hey, in today's video, we're going over the survivor benefit decision. And at retirement, you've got 10 decisions to make. And so we wrote a book on the 10 decisions you got to make at retirement. The survivor benefit decision is an important one. Today's video, we're going over that. My name is Mel Stubbs, a financial planner with Christy Capital Management. Glad you're here. Stick around. But the next decision here is the survivor benefit decision. Very important one. If you're married, generally it's for spouses. If you're married, this is something you need to figure out here. So there's three different options. You can do the 50% survivor benefit, meaning you're gonna leave half of your check to usually it's your spouse, and it costs you 10% of your pension. You can leave 25% of your pension, so leave a quarter of your check. Costs you 5%, or you can do no survivor benefit at all. So let's just look at some of the numbers here. Let's assume your pension is going to be $2,500 a month. If you do no survivor benefit, there's no cost, there's no amount to your spouse, that type thing. So $2,500, you do the 25%. You can see it's going to cost you $125 a month. That's 5%. So you're not going to get $2,500, you're going to get $2,375. And then if something happens to you, your spouse gets $625. So let's move on to the 50% option here. You can see the $2,500 pension, it costs you $250. That's 10%. The amount your spouse, the actual amount you're going to be getting while working is going to be $2,250 because you have to subtract that price out. Half of it goes to your spouse. That is $1,250. Something happens to you. Let's keep in mind here, there is a tie-in with the federal health care. If your spouse needs health care, you can't pick the 0% basically. If you die while retired, your spouse will get kicked off the health care if you pick the no survivor benefit. So if your spouse needs it, really the no survivor benefit is not really an option, unless maybe you and your spouse were both feds. If you're dual fed, you could do that. But otherwise, if your spouse is not a fed and you need the health care, the no survivor benefit is not really an option. You need to pick from the other two. Well, let's look at what happens over time. So here you can see year one, in this case, we got a $22,000 pension. So 10% would be $2,200 to do the 50% survivor benefit. So you're not getting $22,000, you're getting $20,000. And then the survivor benefit would be half of the larger number. They're getting $11,000, half of the 22. But remember, you got cost of livings. At least we hope you got cost of livings. And so each year, hopefully it's getting higher and higher. So we're saying in year 25, your pension is now up to $37,000. Well, that's awesome. Hold on. The cost is now $3,700. So the cost is 10% of your pension. So as your pension goes up, the cost goes up. And so the survivor benefit does get, so whenever you die, your spouse gets half of whatever the pension is at that point. So, I mean, that's better. But look here, paid to date, you've paid $73,000 to date. So what do you think happens if your spouse dies first? Well, what happens to that $73,000? Well, nothing. I don't know where it's going, but just it's going somewhere, some pool of money, it'll just be there. You don't get credit for it, you don't get a refund, any of that type of stuff. Now, what would happen is where you were receiving $33,000 a year, you would get bumped back up to the $37,000 a year. So you do get to quit paying for it, but you don't get any of that money back. You don't get to change the beneficiary to somebody else. None of that type of stuff. So let's look at some side-by-side. You're paying a monthly premium for the survivor benefit, and somebody gets paid something when you die. Looks a lot like life insurance. So if we do a side-by-side comparison, let's see, what the difference is. So on payment options, with the survivor benefit, it's an annuity. You get the monthly payment just like you're getting now. Your spouse will get half, or let's say, of that payment, but it's just a monthly payment. With life insurance, you can get a lump sum, or you can get a monthly payment. You can take the lump sum and turn it into a monthly payment. There's a few more options there where maybe a lump sum might work better for you. Here's a big one, flexibility and control. There are times where, if we're doing a plan for you, we're looking at, the Fed retires, the Fed dies the next year. That puts the most stress on the plan. The Fed dies the next year, is the spouse okay? Sometimes the spouse is not okay. Like there's not enough money, there's not enough income. Even if you have 50%, it's not enough. And so just because 50% is the most you can do, it doesn't magically make that enough. With life insurance, you've got the flexibility, the control to, I need $300,000. Oh, I need $400,000, $500,000. We can figure out how much is needed to make sure the spouse is okay, and you can get the amount that's needed. Even if it's more than 50%, you can get what you need. Cost, this is a big one. So we sort of talked earlier about cost of livings cause your survivor benefit to cost more. I don't say each year, but most years. If you get a cost of living, it's going to cost more. With life insurance, generally speaking, we are using a permanent life insurance that the price stays the same. So whatever the price is, it would have a premium guarantee rider built in where it stays the same. So whatever your price is 25 years from now, it's the same price. It's huge. When you're trying to budget for retirement and your expenses, knowing what your expenses are, that's key. And so when it says maybe more, maybe less, we know what your survivor benefit is going to cost. It's a percentage of your pension. On the life insurance, we need to look it up and see if it's in the ballpark of the same price. We're going to show you life insurance has more features. So like if it's the same price, life insurance is better in a lot of cases. But sometimes it's not the same price. So that's why it's got to be in the ballpark, because let's say your survivor benefit is $250 and the life insurance is $300 a month. That's in the same ballpark. A few years of cost of livings and that $250 will be above the $300. So if it's in the same ballpark, it may be something to look at. Now remember, with the continuation of the federal health care, you might have to pick the 25%. So we're talking about, do you pick the additional 25 to make 50? Do you go get life insurance for that piece? And you can kind of come up with an apples to apples comparison to see if that makes sense. But as far as may cost more, may cost less, whatever the life insurance costs, that's what it's going to cost. And so a lot of times that can be better. Taxes, it's going to be taxable. When you get your pension check, it's taxable. When, your spouse gets a survivor benefit check, it's going to be taxable. With life insurance, generally speaking, probably 99% of the time, it's tax-free. And so you get a big lump sum, tax-free. Now you get to go do some stuff with that money. And so maybe it goes a little further that way. There is the health insurance continuation. So you got to, if you need it, if your spouse needs it, you got to pick some survivor benefit. Here's a big one, changing of the beneficiaries. And so with life insurance, you get a policy, hey, if I die, $500,000 is going to go to my spouse. If my spouse dies first, I can change the beneficiary to somebody else. I could, I'll make my kids. Somebody is going to get paid for me having gotten this policy. With the survivor benefit, it doesn't work that way. Like, your spouse is your beneficiary. And if something happens to them first, everything you've paid kind of goes away. You don't get any kind of refund. There's no cash value. There's no benefit, really. And so that can be a key thing that makes, it makes life insurance maybe a little less risky. Somebody's going to get a benefit for what you've been paying. Inflation protection, the survivor benefit does go up with the cost of livings. Like, so your spouse will get 50% of whatever your pension happens to be whenever time that is. With the life insurance, we need to set up a death benefit. And so, it needs to be factored in. Hey, $300,000 works today. Well, maybe it should be $350 for later. That can kind of be worked into your situation. But also keep in mind here, with the life insurance, the cost is based on your age and your health. And so that's where I'm saying, if it's in the ballpark of the same, a lot of times it's better. But the survivor benefit, it's just got a price. It's based on your pension. Life insurance is based on the other stuff. So if you're healthy enough, maybe it's an option. If you're not, then maybe it's not an option. But that kind of sums up the survivor benefit decision. It is something that it's more than just, I'm just going to check the box and leave the most. There's some nuance here. There may be a better way to spend your money. If we come back here and say, see how the cost there is $125 a month for 25%, or $250 for 50? That extra $125 you're spending, can you spend it wiser? Can you be a better steward of it? Is there something better you can do that provides for you and your family better? Look into it. It's a key decision that you don't just want to check the box and move on and not having thought about it. It's something to think about. And that's why it made it into the book as one of the key decisions, survivor benefit. Hey, well, there you have it. I hope that discussion on that decision was helpful. It comes from our new book going over the 10 decisions you have to make at retirement. It's available on Amazon. There should be a little QR code here. Make sure if you want to go more in detail, you want to reach out and get it, make sure you do so. If you need individualized help, you want to talk to us, feel free to do so. Right up here, there's going to be another video that's important to your planning, so make sure you check it out.